In the history of warfare, the deadliest weapon, prior to the invention of the gun, was the spear. Any idiot could be given a spear, told to point it toward the enemy, and rack up kills. But what if you removed the pointy bit and just started whacking people with it instead? Well, that's what I'm going to find out today, because today I asked the question, can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only a pool cue? I wake up. Doc Mitchell asks me my name. I say Billy Ballsack Chin, for no good reason, and assign my special stats. I go with 9 strength, 1 perception, 9 endurance, 1 charisma, 10 intelligence, 5 agility, and 5 luck. Strength and endurance because melee build. Charisma because bad. Intelligence because good. Perception and luck because the pool cue has a crit multiplier of 0, so why bother, and agility is just whatever. I also pick Logan's Loophole and Skilled as my traits. I emerge into the outside world, decide the sun can kiss my ass and enter the Prospector Saloon, agree to meet Sunny Smiles out back, steal the local pool cue, and realize that whacking balls with sticks won't satisfy Sunny and shoot the balls with a gun. I contend that this does not fail the challenge, and cite the I make the goddamn rules convention of right the fuck now. I beat up some geckos for Sunny, mix some healing powder, and return to the saloon where a polite gentleman is accosting the local bartender. I follow him outside and agree to take over this shithole town. I break my stick off in Ringo's ass, get Chet to supplies with armor, trick Doc Mitchell into handing over his medical supplies, and brutally murder the people who took me in after I was shot in the face and left for dead. I also decide that my rule of not investing points into speech is dumb and stupid, and put most of my level up into it. Having earned myself a coach ticket to hell, I decide to upgrade to a first class ticket and help out the powder gangers at the NCRCF. I run across the unclothed corpse of a caravan guard next to some powder gangers, I'm sure they didn't do anything unspeakable to her, and make my way to the prison. The head honcho tells me to run off some breakaway powder gangers, and I run them ragged. So ragged, they lie down and play dead to avoid any more physical activity. My next task is to chase off someone Eddie suspects to be a bounty hunter. I talk with the man, convince him to leave, and then try and kill him anyway, but his measly 6 damage threshold proves too much for my beaten stick, so I reload and just chase him off. My final task is to find out why the NCR hasn't tried to retake the prison, so I go to Prim and bribe the local postmaster, who reveals that the NCR is gearing up for an assault. I bring the news to Eddie, he says there's no reason for me to stick around, and I take that advice and run away like a little bitch. I then remember that I'm looking for an asshole in a tacky suit and attempt to rescue the local deputy. I try to take the back way to him, but the key just didn't fucking spawn, so I'm forced to whack every jackass in the building to rescue him. He gives me the information I need and the task to bring law back to Prim. Naturally, I install Prim Slim as to give my friends down the prison an easy town to rob. I make my way to the Mojave Outpost to get my shit repaired and decide to throw the government off the trail of my criminal activity by assisting them in some minor tasks. Ranger Jackson requests that I clear out the ants infesting local roads in exchange for him misplacing some supplies. Ants are about the only thing you could reasonably kill with a pool cue, so I clear them out no problem and start walking toward Nipton for Ranger Ghost. I'm accosted by Oliver Swanwick, who appears to have mainlined cocaine through his eyeballs. I consider letting him go due to my loyalty to the powder gangers, but he makes the mistake of telling me he's no longer affiliated, so he gets put in the ground. Vulpus the Furry tells me about what he did to the town, and I should send them to hell for what they did to my friends. But counterpoint...
that!
I speak with a survivor, who explains that some powder gangers got enslaved by the Legion, and despite what I said like 5 seconds ago, I rush off to save them. The legionaries guarding them are so stunned by the audacity of a man rushing them with a pool cue that most of them just stand there and take it. I arrive at Novak, talk with Manny Vargas, and he says he will help me find Benny in exchange for clearing out the Repcon test site. Since I murdered him and took his journal last time, I decide to actually play the game this time and help him out. I head over to Repcon and clear out the zombies with my stick. Yeah, that'll be an effective strategy when the zombies happen. You won't get eaten alive at all, I swear. I make it inside, where Joe Camel tells me to make my way to the top of the building. Upon arrival, I discover that Mr. Camel is experiencing male pattern baldness, and he instructs me to talk with the human glow stick. Jason Bright wants me to clear out the super mutants in the basement, and I decide to take the pacifist way out, because whacking a dozen super mutants to death with a pool cue sounds Sisyphusian. I start one of those multi-layer fetch quests when Davison requests the location of some stealth boys. Harland is guarding the info, but wants his girlfriend in exchange for it, so I exchange the sweet release of death to the jail guard in exchange for the key to Harland's girlfriend's corpse, exchange the knowledge of her demise to Harland, and exchange the knowledge of there being no stealth boys here for the super mutants getting the fuck out. I tell Jason the good news, meet him in the basement, and Joe Campbell tells me to fetch some rocket parts. I locate a rare radioactive isotope just lying around, and locate some rocket parts by brutally murdering an old woman and her dogs. I deliver the goods, Joe Campbell loses his shit, and I launch the zombies into space. I arrive at Boulder City, resist the urge to shove my stick up Kowalski's ass, and then get told to fuck off by Lieutenant Monroe, who then changes his mind after I, a man he just met, offer to mediate a hostage situation. I talk with the cons. They tell me where Benny went, I convince them to lay down their arms, and then tell the lieutenant that shooting people who have already surrendered is bad actually. This whole exercise is enough to level me up to 8, and you bet your mother's fat ass that I take Super Slam. I make my way to Freeside and decide to help this nice shithole with its drug problems. I talk with the head hippie, who points me towards some well-educated crack whores. They tell me they get their shit from Dixon, and I solve the problem forever by killing him. Yep, that's how that works. There definitely won't be a new guy slinging drugs on the exact same street corner by this time tomorrow. Why would you think that? I then tell the crack whores,
"Stop it. Get some help."
And then return to Queen Hippie for my reward. I arrive in New Vegas. Dean Martin starts serenading my earballs, and I make for the tops to shove my pool cue so far up Benny's ass that it comes out his nose. I talk with Swank, convince him that Benny is a bastard man, and strike Mr. Sunshine in the nuts until they explode. The turntables, and I myself am ambushed by a mailman. He invites me to see the ambassador, and I oblige. Ambassador Crockpot wants me to get in contact with the boomers and enlist their aid, so I make my way to Nellis, completely whiff my attempt to kill George, purchase his instructions on how to survive the bombardment, and proceed to get my nuts blown off anyway. I agree to help around Nellis, and I start by treating the boomers with actual medicine instead of the unicorn blood and leprechaun semen they were using. Next, I have to listen to Pete's history lesson and give a series of vague platitudes when he quizzes me on it. I wipe the dirt off some solar panels, drive ants to suicide by blaring Metallica's Saint Anger over the loudspeakers, and test whether or not the warheads actually explode when you hit them. They do. I then raise the bar from the lake, and the boomers agree to commit war crimes in the name of the NCR. I report my success to the boomers, and Crocker sends me to talk with the king about the violence against NCR citizens in Freeside. I talk my way past the bouncer, demand a job, and get told to investigate a local bodyguard who done what have too much business. I follow him around, he shoots some hooligans, and I use the power of checking their pulses to determine that Oris is a fink.
Is that a slur?
I report this to the king, he has his men disembowel him when no one is looking, and sends me to talk with some losers who got stuffed in a locker. The old man doesn't know shit, but the moron identifies a soldier by rank. I return to the king, who sends me to Queen Hippie, who sends me to an aid worker, who explains that Pacer is a no-good two-timing varmint and to get the fuck out of her face. I report this to the king, gunfire's exchanged, and I explain this is all a big fucky-wucky, and everyone lives happily ever after. Except the guys who died, they stay dead. I trade in my favor for a haircut, then remember I need to stop the violence, so I arrange a trade. Freeside gets food and power, and the NCR gets Pacer's life. Seems fair to me. I report my bloodbath-induced success to Crocker, he sends me to talk with Colonel Moore, and I level up and take what I thought was Piercing Strike. This will be relevant later. The Colonel wants me to exterminate the Great Khans, but I decide that genocide via pool cue is a bad idea, so I work to break their alliance with Caesar instead. I talk with Papa Khan about that, and he politely tells me to fuck off. As I exit the building, his right-hand man informs me that if I can convince his advisors to turn against the Legion, Papa Khan would comply. I double back and talk with Carl, the Legion ambassador. I trick him into bad-mouthing the Khans, and everyone in the Longhouse simultaneously turns his ass into a smear. I talk with Jack and Diane.
I understood that reference.
And they send me to find out what happened to their last drug runner. I find him hanging around Legion territory, and after laying him down, I take a trip to Caesar's camp. I make a beeline for his tent, look right at the man, and like the awkward dork I am, I avoid talking with him and start reading instead. My last task is convincing Melissa to stand against the Legion, and that means getting mauled to death repeatedly by the unholy spawn of Freddy Krueger and Edward Scissorhands. I convince Melissa that Caesar is a dork, Jack and Diane that the Legion are a bunch of straight-edge losers, and Regis that Caesar is bringing back slavery, baby. Papa Khan breaks the alliance, I tell him to get lost, and he takes them into me and Carbon Empire out of the Northwest. Whatever floats your boat, I guess. My next task is to figure out what the Emeritus are up to and put a stop to it. And we once again run up against the problem of my weapon not being asshole compliant. I can't fit a 3-foot wooden pole up my ass. Who do you think I am? What the fuck? This just says insert promiscuous celebrity here. Who's writing this shit? I fulfill my lifelong dream of being a Muppeteer by shoving my hand up Kachino's ass and making him talk. He sends me to talk with Troik, who needs me to get him out of his contract because the bosses caught him with a dead hooker and have him by the balls. Doesn't seem like a big deal to me. Who hasn't gotten blitzed out of their mind on drugs and killed a hooker? What's that? Most people, you say. Ah shit, I gotta call my lawyer. I point out that Troik is no use to the bosses as strung out as he is, getting him out of his contract and allowing me to destroy the boss's guns. This gives Kachino and I a meeting with the bosses, and thanks to my silver tongue, I convinced Big Sal that Nero put us up to this, turning them on each other and allowing Kachino to actually kill the bosses in one try. After I'm done with that, I'm told to deal with House, so I shove my stick up his cock tube, causing his fluids to back up so much that he explodes. What the fuck? Now, my next task would be the Brotherhood, but I have something stupid in mind, and I need all the protection I can get for it. So I recruit everyone's favorite doctor, Arcade, who I recently found out is voiced by an anti-vaxxer, and that made me laugh more than it probably should have. I take him on a tour of the Mojave to gain his trust, and he eventually confides in me that he's a former member of a xenophobic paramilitary organization, and that they might be able to help in the upcoming battle for Hoover Dam. Armed with this knowledge, I start recruiting his old friends, most of whom agree to come along instantly. And then there's Doc Henry. He won't budge until someone discovers why the local Night Stalkers done turned invisible. So I order Dr. Levi to stay put and start beating off snake dogs with a stick. It works surprisingly well until I get within shitting distance of the chewed up stealth boy when one of the doggos eats my ass. Second go around, this time I just bum rush the target and make it out with only a minor case of chew toy balls. Doc Henry runs a test on Lily, I convince Keen not to be a menace to society, and the Doc agrees to meet up with the rest of the remnants. We all convene in an old bunker, I tell them we're aiding the NCR, Moreno throws a shit fit, I tell the young grown baby to shut the fuck up, I get power armor training, and Arcade gives me the gift of power armor. You're probably wondering why I went through all this trouble to get this armor. Well, aside from the Battle of Hoover Dam, I wanted this armor because I'm about to walk the lonesome road. Why, you ask? Oh, we'll get to that. I get my animal abuse in for the day by murdering some coyotes and make my way to the Divide. I release Eddie from his cryopod prison and proceed to spend about 20 minutes knocking around a sentry bot wondering why I wasn't doing any damage. Well, silly me, it's been so long since I've made a melee build that I forgot that half the melee perks require the unarmed skill, and the perk I took earlier was actually Unstoppable Force. Oops. I repeat this process several more times before emerging outside and meeting the most pretentious motherfucker you ever did hear, Ulysses. Want to hear my impression? Bull, bear, divide! Bull, bear, divide! This motherfucker just loves hearing the sound of his own goddamn voice. It wouldn't be so bad if he talked about 25% faster, but as is, he just drones on and on and on about how the NCR sucks and how awesome the Divide was, without ever getting into specifics about what made the Divide so great. All this build-up from multiple DLCs just to end with this wet fart of a character. What a fucking waste. Anyway, I bum rush the Marked Man camp, obtain the laser detonator, get my nuts blown off again by a prick with a red glare, blow up some warheads, and make it to the collapsed overpass. I run through the cave without attracting attention from the tunnelers. I don't know how they didn't see me, but I don't like to look a gift horse in the mouth. Ulysses tries to jaw at me some more, but I tell him to shut the fuck up and start wailing on some marked men. I come across some Deathclaws and proceed to get my asshole expanded by them for a solid 8 minutes. I try running past them and get cut down. I try jumping off the overpass and discover that it insta-kills you. I try bum rushing the Deathclaws, and that goes about as well as you expect. Finally, I mainline all the drugs I have through my asshole, and that gives me the strength, and luck, to knock the Deathclaws on their asses and kick them off the overpass. Next, I reach a field of mines so sensitive that at my explosive skills, I straight up can't disarm them and I'm just forced to endure them. I then launch a nuke, piss myself on the elevator, run through the facility, past the tunnelers, and onto the roof. At this point, I have Piercing Strike, so taking out the marked men is as simple as doing the old 1-2 crack the skull open with a discount baseball bat. I quickly make it to the Cave of Abandon and attempt to run away from the tunnelers like in the collapsed overpass, but this time I'm not so lucky and get torn apart. I attempt to use a stealth boy to sneak past them, but unfortunately the tunnelers have bat vision and once again tear me apart. What's the word I'm looking for here? Oh yeah, bullshit! I eventually realized that I could make it past if my health was high enough, and then discover a conveniently placed bed at the entrance. Well, that was easy. I emerge into the rooftop, Ulysses hijacks Eddie, and leaves me for dead. I shit my pants upon seeing a pair of Deathclaws, but then remember that winners do drugs, and use this newfound winnerdom to juggle 2 Deathclaws until they croak. I make it to Ulysses' temple, don't rescue Eddie because the Lonesome Road perk kinda slaps, and confront Ulysses. Every fiber of my being wanted to skewer this guy like a spit roast, but unfortunately, he can't be knocked down, so I would have to deal with his 1000 HP untrimmable ass and an army of marked men. Thanks, but no thanks. I convince him nukes are bad, we kill the marked men, I redirect them toward the Legion, and make it back to the Mojave. Now that that's over with, I can tell you why in Satan's glorious name did I just complete Lonesome Road with only a pool cue. Well, for one, just to prove I could, but more importantly, to obtain Old Glory, which mechanically speaking is a unique pool cue.
Well, why you booing me? I'm right.
Okay, now I'm ready to deal with the Brotherhood. I recruit Felicia Day and have her open the door to the bunker. I talk with Elder McNamara and he wants me to find 3 scouting parties that have gone missing. So I scour the desert and find out that yep, they are super dead. Next, I have to find 3 lone scouts who were doing recon when the lockdown happened. I find them, they give me their reports, and they effectively amount to the NCR are a bunch of doo-doo heads who can't keep control of their own territory. The final trilogy of tasks within this trilogy of tasks is to find replacement parts for the air system. Getting the differential pressure controller was easy. Just squish some bugs and kick some rats and find the parts in a locker submerged in water. The reverse pulse clear was also a cakewalk. I just talk my way past the guards and steal a part from Motor Owner's closet. The HEPA filters, on the other hand, those can go fuck themselves. Vault 22 locks several doors behind a terminal in the Overseer's office and an easily missable key card in the living quarters, and I ran around like a fucking chicken with its head cut off trying to figure out why I couldn't get anywhere. Anyway, I find the fucking filters, deliver them to Lorenzo, and convince McNamara to form a truce between the Brotherhood and the NCR. Alright, one last thing to do before the battle for Hoover Dam, and that of course is the quest You'll Know When It Happens. This quest is great, fantastic even. You know, the first time. Every other time is like being told to solve the same puzzle you solved 14 years ago. You can appreciate the design of the puzzle and all the effort that went into making it, but that doesn't change the fact that you've already solved it and have extracted all the fun you can from it. The president gets out safe and sound, and now it's time for a bunch of wannabe Italians to try and take over a giant slab of concrete. Fun fact, legends say that there are dead bodies in the dam from when people fell into the pour during construction. Unfortunately, like all good legends, evidence has to ruin it. The concrete was only poured between 2 and 6 inches at a time, so ain't no way in hell anyone fell in and got lost. I say all this because what else is there to say? I have the Gannon family Tesla armor, Old Glory, Super Slam, Piercing Strike, and the Enclave remnants backing me up. The Legate never stood a chance. I take his helmet as a trophy, Oliver tells me good job, and I prove yes, you can beat Fallout New Vegas with only a pool cue. You know, this whole exercise showed me just how busted the melee perks in New Vegas truly are. You could have a weapon that's just a teddy bear on a stick, and these perks would still make it OP. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and thank you Obsidian/Bethesda for putting the original Fallout music in the game files. My name is Mr. Monotone96, and I'll see y'all later.